Hi, in today's episode, we have Sudhir Kasliwal. Sudhir Kasliwal is an accomplished jeweler, photographer, and collector born in Jaipur. He belongs to the sixth generation of royal jewelers. Sudhir Kasliwal is the eldest of the three brothers, and he began working at the Gem Palace immediately after graduating from university. He holds the important position of administrator and CFO of the company. Sudhir is also an avid photographer. Sudhir's love for the art began as a hobby and soon transformed into a consuming passion. Rajasthan's spellbinding life, landscape, and heritage has been a deep and long-lasting inspiration for him. So these photographs have received international recognition and they appeared regularly in leading journals all over the world. But let's start with the love of jewelry making. As a person, I make contact with the jewelry first and then the eye contact. So welcome Sudhir in today's episode and tell me all about the start of this journey. What is the first memory that you have of recollection as a child of jewelry and the art of making fine jewelry?
See, as a child, I used to often come to my father's shop here, and there were some very beautiful old silver elephants, which had bells on both the sides. And I remember coming to the shop and just playing with those bells, tingling them. And that is the first memory that I have, because they were two fairly large size silver elephants, with hoda and Mohua and everything. And in fact, we still have those pieces in our collection. So that's the first memory of my coming to my father's shop. And then off and on, of course, like coming and seeing him work and attend to the customers. Nowadays, this fashion of learning jewelry designing and all has come up. In those days, there were no design schools or gem labs where you could go and get yourself trained. So this is perhaps in our blood. I have grown up seeing all the beautiful jewels and jewelry that was being manufactured in our jewelry house. And that's how I picked up jewelry and having a lot of love and interest for jewelry.
So when you talk about institutes, yes, you're absolutely right. Today, there are a lot of institutes that teach you how to do silver jewelry, which I believe is an easier, way to learn. But fine jewelry definitely requires a whole lot of training, to do. But do you regret that you did not go into a jewelry making institute ever?
Not at all. I think the experience of my father and grandfather and uncles was good enough to teach me jewelry manufacturing, designing, understanding good and bad jewelry, the aesthetic part of jewelry. And that you learn. I mean, there's no end to learning. As you keep on growing, you keep on learning and improving.
So Sudhir, I think it'll be fantastic for the listeners to know what you mean by good and bad jewelry.
Good and bad jewelry. Now, if we talk, for instance, Jaipur is renowned and has been very famous for its Kundankari and Meenakari jewelry, which is very artistic.
Absolutely.
And they are still doing this Kundan Meena jewelry in Jaipur. But the difference between an aesthetically designed piece, aesthetically engraved, carved, and enameled piece than what we see today. And those who have not seen that good aesthetic appeal sort of jewelry, they wouldn't understand the difference between the good and the bad. When you compare them side by side and you analyze it, then you realize that what is good jewelry and what is bad jewelry. Just by making a piece of jewelry with big diamonds won't make it aesthetically beautiful, You can have big diamond jewelry also, but if it is a beautifully designed necklace or a ring or a brooch, whatever, so that's where you say good jewelry and bad jewelry. Even artificial jewelry is very, very beautiful. But as I said, the design part is very important.
So you mean the finesse with which the work, the karigari has been done? Karigari is the craftsmanship. You mean the finesse of it when we talk about good jewelry?
Absolutely. The finesse, you see, to make a good piece of jewelry, the karigar has to have patience. Nowadays, what I find is everybody wants to make a quick buck. If we, there's a book by T.H. Handley that was published in 1886 on the art of Jaipur enamel. And in that book, he has illustrated some beautiful pieces that were made then. And also, there's a chart which shows how many months or years it took for that particular piece to be completed. Now, this is the kind of patience the workers had. They were just there to create the best of the best. But that sort of spirit we don't find in the modern day karigars. At least that is what I feel when I see what products are coming nowadays, particularly of the Jaipur enamel work, vis-a-vis the products that were made 100 years or even 75, 80 years back. So that's the difference, as we were talking about good and bad jewelry or good or bad piece of art. So
I completely
that's
agree with you,
my
actually, because my grandmother has left me some of her heirloom pieces, and in Bengal we have a lot of stone setting jewelry. It's done in very fine gold, and even now when you turn the back of it, the neatness in which the stones have been placed, is unbelievable. It is smooth as a baby's bottom. When you
see, this is something that I once asked my father, that the back of the say, for instance, enamel jewelry, you don't see the enamel, you only see the front portion studded with stones like diamonds, rubies, or amulets. Then why do they have to waste so much time? So he said there is something called art, and when a wearer wears that jewelry, the skin feels the jewelry. Like, for instance, you can have a piece of glass cut into a diamond shape of 3 carats, and you have a real diamond. Apparently, for a layman or from a distance, it will just look like diamond. But the thrill that the wearer or the owner gets out of wearing that piece of jewelry makes it beautiful. So you not only wear jewelry to show, or that it is to be seen, but I feel that you feel that feel good factor is there when you're wearing a good piece of jewelry and a bad piece of jewelry.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you because I'm a huge fan of jewelry. I love jewelry. I love traditional jewelry hugely. I'm a Bengali
That
myself.
I could very well see when I met you.
Yes. I was trying out every piece that was there that you were showing me. And, of course, I can't get over that beautiful, absolutely fine duck and the peacock that you had made with that little pearl drop. And so I just want to ask you, that is there any new designs that designers today who, come out from design schools, do they endeavor to do that? Or is it the same traditional jewelry that still is being
No. They definitely come out
done?
with good designs, but the
Okay.
inspiration are old traditional designs. For instance, in Rajasthan, we had this enameled, what you call now as choker is known as adia. Now they have these chokers made of diamonds, not necessarily of enamel work, but the basic inspiration or the design is our traditional choker design, or what they call chandelier earrings. We call them jhumkas.
Yes,
Now there
jhumkas.
are, yeah. So now, see, interestingly, in English you only say earrings. At the most, you describe chandelier earrings. But when I say Bali, when I say
Jhumka.
jhumka, when I say
Chand
kernful, they
Bali.
are all earrings.
Yes, Chand
Chand Bali,
Bali.
they are all earrings.
Absolutely.
But we have specific names. I mean, if a customer comes and says Chand Bali, I don't have to show him a jhumka. I know what Chand Bali is, and what she or he knows what Chand Bali is. But if you just come and say earrings, in English, we only say earrings. Or at the most, like for Chand Bali, they call hoop earrings or something.
Yes, they call it
So
hoop earrings.
that's the beauty of our Indian jewelry, and we have names even for ornaments worn on the wrist. You can call it just bracelet. But here, when we say kangan, kada,
In Bengal, we
pochi,
call it the
all
bala.
these. So we have different names for the different designs or different
Absolutely.
styles. And these are what is inspiring the modern designers also. Ultimately, if you see what is being created today and you go back to 100, 200-year-old jewelry, there is a lot of similarity, but in a different style. But the basic inspiration is our traditional old jewelry.
A lot of clothing designers also who are
Yes.
getting into jewelry now. I mean, Sabyasachi's got this huge name also all over the world for the kind of jewelry that he does. So, do you think designers who
Yeah.
are into clothing, do you think they are also kind of, taking away a certain part of the market that was that traditionally actually belongs to the expertise of people who've been in this business for very, very long? And do you think a brand name does
No, no, but
have an
no,
appeal,
no. I
with
would say it is
customers?
good. The brand name promotes that jewelry, but a lot of his jewelry is being manufactured here in Jaipur only.
Okay.
I know that. So not necessarily only Jaipur. He must be getting things made elsewhere also.
Okay.
But that is giving employment to more karigars and promoting these fashion shows and like there's certain jewelry which goes well with sari will not go well with your jeans and toppers.
Yes, but then there has been a shift now because a lot of people are wearing Indian jewelry with their jeans and their shirts, and I think it's a phenomenal combination. It looks fantastic on people who can carry that off. Talking about customers, just share some anecdote with our listeners. That would be really nice because some anecdote that you really remember when you started your career or now that you've been really, really long in this that, would show an insight into jewelry buying in
Well,
India.
I've been fortunate enough to meet many of who's who of the world during our course of business or sale of jewelry. If talking of interesting incident, I'll talk. Let me narrate. I met Lady Diana and Prince Charles when they were here in 1991 or 92. They had visited Jaipur, and I had the pleasure of showing our jewelry to them.
Okay.
And then, just when Lady Diana was leaving, I thought I must give her something beautiful from Jaipur, a very traditional pair of earrings I picked up to be presented to her. So, as a memento of her Jaipur visit. So, when I handed over the earring to her, I suddenly realized that it had, pierced ears sort of, at the back. And if you, a lot of foreigners don't have their ears pierced and they have clip on types.
Yes.
So I started looking at her ear. She was taller than me, they're taller than I am. And she looked at me and looked at the earrings. And very gracefully admiring the earrings, she commented, "You know what? I would have got my ears pierced for these earrings. They are so beautiful, even if I didn't have my ears pierced." So
So
that is
how
something
wonderful.
that
That's
I
one of the
can never
greatest.
forget.
Wow, that's such a compliment. Yes, and of course, I
It
saw for
is.
myself the kind of things that and it stayed back in my heart. And of course, I'm planning to come down, and yeah, they were just absolutely gorgeous, especially those boxes also that you showed me. I would really like you to tell my listeners about those boxes because I came back and I told, my friends about it and they were like amazed because we've heard about these sort of boxes that were used in the earlier days. My grandmother had, one box and, I don't know where it has gone now, but who are the people who pick up those little boxes to keep little things that had that absolutely fine enamel work, inside the lid and all the stones on top? So, what kind of customers are they from India who pick up those absolutely
Well,
gorgeous,
there are
exquisite
collectors
boxes?
from India also,
Okay.
and foreigners also. Like when you see these auction houses, Sotheby's and Christie's, there are so many art objects studded with diamonds and rubies and sapphires and all kinds of precious and semi-precious stones, be it swords, daggers, boxes, all made here in India. So there were collectors who would buy. As I said, it gives you a personal pleasure. You can have a simple cardboard box, and when you have a silver box or a gold box with intricate carving or beautiful enameling or studded with precious stones, the kind of pleasure that you derive out of it is not, I can't describe it, but that's why they were using this art just not in jewelry, but in manufacturing of beautiful art objects.
Absolutely, yes. And I think jewelry is one of the best ways, to express yourself. And but now let's just talk a little bit about the photography, Sudhir. I mean, I am been staring at the book that you gifted me, and I couldn't get over all the prints that I saw in your office. So tell me a little bit about your photography journey. When did it begin? And of course, you showed me all those reels and those negatives that we used to call in the earlier days.
See,
How did it start?
I started photography when I was in seventh or eighth grade in school.
Okay.
And ever since, this photography hasn't left me. It is a passion.
Did you
And,
ever think about switching into photography fully?
well, I know there were a lot of people who saw my work and said, "Are you a professional photographer?" I said,
Yes.
"No, I just do it for pleasure."
Okay.
Because I had my other source of means of earning money, my traditional family business. So I just kept it as a hobby, but I did get a kick when my work was published in some book or some magazine or some international magazine. And that kept on inspiring me and encouraging me. And I'm from the old school, and what you see today is all digital photography. But I still enjoy doing, analog
manual.
film photography.
Okay.
And that's where you really feel that you've created something. This is my feeling that when I develop a film, print it, it gives you a different feeling altogether.
But
The
I think
look
it's
is
very
different, the
fascinating.
feel is different.
It's very fascinating how photography has changed today because, of the phone cameras that's available. So a lot of people have, they have the
But
ability
as I
now.
said, again, anybody can click a photograph with an iPhone or a digital camera. But then again, the same thing is that anybody can make a jewelry, but one jewelry or one photograph that appeals to you, that has aesthetic sense, that has sense of composition, makes the world of difference. Just by clicking randomly pictures, you don't really become a photographer.
Yes, you don't. It is about the composition and the subject. So I've seen
Yeah,
your subjects.
it's a kind of art. It's a different form of art, and good that people are recognizing photography as an art form now. Earlier, when photography was just invented, people didn't consider it as an art, but today it is definitely an art, like a painter who paints. This photography also is an art in
So
its
you do a
own
lot of
way.
portraits, am I right?
No, I do all kinds of photography, but portraits, interesting portraits, yes, I do.
Okay.
But I love
Fantastic.
shooting life and people, documenting the lives, going to the villages, to the countryside. And surprisingly, now when I visit the same places, they have transformed. So I think my photographs that I've shot in last 20, 30 years, they have already become history. But at least for posterity, the people will know how this place was, how the houses were. Now, when I go to those countryside villages, all you see is pakka houses, no mud houses. You see tractors instead of belgadi, aerial TV antenna aerials on their rooftops. Nothing existed 10, 15 years, 20 years back. So that has changed. So the new generation would only know by the photographs, the old photographs, what it was. I mean, that's part of history. That will be part of history.
So tell me something. Mainly your photographs have been in Rajasthan, right? Through all your travel within
Well,
Rajasthan.
because I'm born and brought up in Rajasthan, in Jaipur. I love Rajasthan, and it's the most colorful state. You see,
Yes, it
the
is.
kind of colorful clothes the women wear here, the traditional clothes, the traditional silver jewelry the ethnic jewelry is unbeatable. No other part in the country or in the world, I would say, is as colorful as Rajasthan. So, and since I belong to this place, I've been traveling a lot in Rajasthan. I keep clicking pictures of Rajasthan, and my heart is there in Rajasthan, will remain there.
Your soul remains in Rajasthan. So tell me, before I end this episode, I need you to tell me, what is that one piece of jewelry on women that remains your favorite?
No, you see, the hasli. In
Yes.
Rajasthan, they wear a hasli, which is a stiff sort of necklace.
Yes.
And in village, now you don't see that many, but it was a very traditional part, and in beautiful forms, beautiful shapes, the hasli was made. So that's something that adorned the neck of our Rajasthan damsels, and in their colorful red and bright red and yellow and green orni, and we call it orni and base, and not saris, but they wear that orni
The
and
ghagra
base.
choli, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ghagra choli, right.
Yes, the ghagra choli. And I have also a number of haslis that I have picked up, the Rajasthani haslis, and I think they look fantastic when I wear them. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. And as we end, let's just say that keeping calm is secondary, but wearing jewelry is primary. Thank you, Sudhir, for being on today's podcast.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to seeing you in Bangalore, or I'm coming to Jaipur to go
You're
on a
most
ride
welcome.
on the vintage
I hope
cars.
this time when you come, you have more time. Then I can really show you Jaipur and Rajasthan through my eyes.
Oh, I would love that. Absolutely, because Rajasthan remains one of my favorite places in India, and I visit it every year, excepting for the years of COVID that I couldn't go, but I never miss out winters in Rajasthan.
Well,
and
unfortunately, this COVID is spreading fast, so maybe after 3-4 months,
yes,
things will improve, and that's when you should visit.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Sudhir, for being on today's podcast. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are Moody Mo Awaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.